Hello friends, in the previous video I have explained about the Equisetum, anatomy, morphology, sporophyte structure and classifications. So that continue with in this video you will study the reproduction. So what is actually the, in case of the equisetum, they reproduce vegetatively, asexually and the sexual mode of reproduction. So usually already in the morphological structure I have mentioned that the some tubers will be formed in the equisetum, they will help for the reproduction. So usually especially the tubers, where actually the tubers will be there in case of the Equisetum, the rhizomes region of the some Equisetum species, they form a tuber-like structure. They will help for the vegetative reproduction. Those photographs is showing that small bulged tubers will be present. They will separate from the mother plant and they help for the reproduction. The tubers develop due to the irregular growth of some branches, buds at the node of the rhizomes. They are oval or pear-shaped and they consist of starch-rich grains. When they matures, they will separate out from the mother plant and they can be reproduced asexually by the formation of by the spores. So Equisetum is a homosporous. In the previous class, that Selaginella is a heterosporous, but in case of Equisetum, they are the homosporous, and usually they are sporangium borne on the sporangiophore. The sporangia bearing structure called as a sporangiophore, and this is the structure. This photograph shows the sporangiospore structure. Coming to the position and the structure of the Strobilus, the what is a cone is called as a Strobilus. They are the in the most species Strobilus are born at the terminal position of the vegetative shoot, but in some species they may be born at the different regions, and they may be short one or sometime that may be modified. Center massive axis are called Strobilus axis, and larger of sporangium spores force that project at the right angle to the successive alternate oral from the Strobilus axis. So this is the Strobilus structure, and each sporangiospore is a stalked structure, and usually hexagonal pellet disc will be present. Underside that you will consist of the 5 to 10 sacs like sporangia will be there, and usually outer growth consists of the annuals will be present. Where do you find annuals? In case of the Strobilus of Equisetum, you will find the annuals. So this is the structure. This is what we find in the upper, this in the photographs, the upper portion, that's a pellet disc will be present, and these are the sporangia, and this is the stalk of the sporangiophore. This is the complete structure of the sporangiophore. This is the structure. These 4 photographs is showing the structure of the sporangiophore. When they get matures, this type of cross section will be showing the structure, that sac like structure attached to the underside of the pellet disc. Sporangiophores will be present, and usually single layer, all spores in the sporangium enclosures, and they have the axis, elongated axis will be there, and sporangia dries the outer layer, shrinks, sporangia ruptures, and that will be burst open, and usually the elaters, they help for the dispersion of the these spores. Usually spores are spatulated in nature and they are hygroscopic. Spores are hygroscopic, and this is the structure or the spores of the Equisetum. The coming to the gametophyte, that's reproduction, the gametes. There are 2 types of gametes, that's a male and female gamete will be present in Equisetum. They're really in the nature because the filaments are algal masses and usually present. Structure of the mature antheridium. So this is the structure, that's the male gametophyte is called antheridium. The antheridium more or less globular structure, and it is sessile in nature, borne on the margins of the erythlite, and usually body of the antheridia consists of single jacket layer encloses of the masses of 558 spermatozoites, and it is the structure, and center you will find the spermatozoites. And usually they are hydrophilic substances, and antherozoites very easily come in contact with the water and swim in the water current. And the archegonium, that's the female reproductive structure. Archegonia has a small necks and the swollen base. So usually neck is made up of 3 to 4 tiers of the neck cells, and each tier has usually 4 cells. Neck has 1 to 2 neck canal cells. Swollen basal part, that's archegonia, has the ventral canal cells and the egg cells. And usually neck of the archegonia usually projected above the surface. So coming to the fertilization, when the archegonia and antheridia they will matures, so usually antheridia produce the spermatozoites and archegonia produce the egg cells. So what happens, the spermatozoites through the water current, they will swim and come in contact with the egg cells. They undergo to the fertilization through the neck canal cells, and they will reach the ventral canal cells, and ultimately the ventral and the neck canal cells will be disintegrate with the antherozoites, and usually the malic acid will be present with the chemical synthetic nature. What happens, the spermatozoites come in reach and contact with the egg cells, they form a zygote. The zygote is called as a oospores, and usually that is the fertilization. That's a gametophytic stages. Once the fertilization takes place, zygote will be formed. So usually diploid oospores will be present. That's the next sporophytic generation of the incision through that spores. So this is the life cycle of the Equisetum. So Equisetum, that may be through the vegetative reproduction by the tuber formation, or through the spore formation. That's Equisetum produce the Strobilus, that's diploid in nature, and the sporangia, spore mother cells will undergo, and they will undergo to the that's a vegetative cell. The spores will be present, and these spores will be liberated, and they produce the new plant. Or in case of the sexual reproduction, they undergo to what? Actually, the spore mother cells undergo to the form spores. The prothallus will be present. They produce the antheridia and the archegonial structure. Antheridium produce the antherozoites, and archegonium produce the egg cells. They undergo to the fertilization. The zygote will be formed. That zygote undergo to the formation of the embryo and develop the new Equisetum plant body. So like that, the half is that usually the complete life cycle is homosporous, but the half, that sporophytic stage, is diploid in nature. Gametophytic nature is applied in nature. So this is the photograph is showing complete life cycle. That's a plant body, sporophyte, elaters, and the cone, and the structure of this cone, tubers, all the things in this photographs. I hope you will get these structures. That is Strobilus structure, and also the elaters and the section structures of the Equisetum will be, you can very easily find it out. So this is the complete life cycle of the Equisetum, the reproduction and the life cycle. So usually vegetative reproduction by the tubers, and asexually by the spores. That's Equisetum Strobilus produce the spores. Both vegetative and asexual spores are diploid in nature, but sexually the gametophyte will be produced. During that period, what happens? So usually the gametophyte are haploid in nature. That's n number will be there. That's a male and the female gametophyte. That's the antheridia and the archegonia, spermatozoites and egg cells will be present. That condition is called as a gametophytic stages. The gametophyte and the sporophyte. The gametophyte is a short duration, and the sporophyte is a larger duration. So that each with the gametophyte and the sporophyte alternate with each other. Usually what happens, the sporophyte is a long duration and have the diploid in nature. Gametophyte is a short duration and the haploid in nature. So like that, the complete life cycle is alternate with each one of the sporophyte and the gametophytic stages in case of the Equisetum. So in this video I have explained the reproduction of the Equisetum, reproductive structures, and also the life cycle of the Equisetum. I hope you will understand the concept. This complete the concept of Equisetum. So if you have any doubts or a clarification, so you can discuss with the in the next session.